So what is the sentiment over there now that the police officers have all been charged?
You mean in Minnesota? Yes. That definitely was something that was expected and a bit of a relief, but this is just the beginning for this movement, it appears, in the United States. Just because the officers have been arrested doesn't mean that everybody is going to leave the streets and then conclude that racial problems in the United States have ended. This looks like the beginning of a very significant movement. Also, possibly we're at an inflection point in United States history with the president continuing to focus on law and order rather than the issues of racial divide. And that really puts him in contrast.
Can you help explain to our Thai audience why this time around the reaction from the public is so intense or so widespread?
I think a big difference is this time around you had an incident that lasted for 8 minutes that was videotaped. Everyone could clearly see what was going on. They could clearly hear what was going on. And there was really no way to spin that in any way that would have been sympathetic to the view of law enforcement officers. And then it can be argued that the response from the President of the United States, instead of being consoler-in-chief, came out with a lot of comments about law and order, that only exacerbated the incident and caused more fury among the protesters who, of course, have not perceived the President generally being too sympathetic to minorities in this country, although the president will tell you he's done more for African Americans than any other president.
So, Steve, how do you see things will develop in the next few days?
I think a lot depends on whether there are these sort of violent opportunists that continue to mix in and how severely law enforcement responds. Of course, if we see a continuation of police brutality, there was a case in Buffalo, New York on Thursday night where a 75-year-old man was shoved with apparently no provocation by some police officers, knocked to the ground, was bleeding from his head and is in serious condition in the hospital. Those types of scenes enrage people. So we need to see a restraint by law enforcement and also demonstrators and organizers to keep their rallies peaceful. We have seen some of that in Washington, where in recent days when people tried to start to do some acts of vandalism, that others in the crowd that told them that was wrong and to stop it. It is a very interesting time right now. I think it's very hard to predict